the Soviets. They were deployed initially to the Black Sea coast of the Kuban region and in defense of Moscow. The appearance of Spitfires in the Soviet Union caused some surprise. After an engagement where they flew alongside Soviet-operated Bell P-39 Era Cobras and Yakovlev Yak-1s against Luftwaffe Yukas U-87 Stuka dive bombers and their escorting Messerschmitt Bf-109s on the 28th of April 1943, the commander of the 8th Squadron of Jagdgeschwader, or Fighter Wing 52, Günter Rau, reported it was likely that tomorrow we would encounter a large number of Spitfires in our sector of the front, and he wasn't wrong. Those Mark 5s were followed from February 1944 by Mark 9s. The first 6 of them were shipped to the USSR through Iraq and Iran. They were followed by factory-fresh, new-build examples. And in the end, 1,185 Spitfire 9s went on to be supplied to the Soviets. And testing by the Soviet Flight Research Institute, the LII, showed that the Mark 9 Spitfire was superior in terms of altitude performance to all the Soviet-built fighters of the day, the likes of the Yakovlev and Lavochkin types, and that it was better armed, but it was inferior at low level, and that was very much the domain of the Soviet types alongside which they flew. And that to some extent influenced the deployment of the Soviet Spitfires. They were largely used by air defense units rather than at the front, but they were also employed to some extent for ground attack. Soviet Air Force Spitfire 9 air defense regiments were stationed around the major cities of the USSR, such as Moscow, Leningrad, Murmansk, and elsewhere. Some of them were even allocated to the aviation arm of the Soviet Navy's Black Sea Fleet. The Spitfire we're about to see was supplied to the USSR in 1944 under Lend-Lease. It went to the Soviet Union aboard an Atlantic convoy bound for Murmansk, where it arrived in late October that year, being assigned to the 2nd Squadron of the 767th Fighter Aviation Regiment for the defense of that Soviet port city. After flying less than 19 hours in Soviet service, it was lost in an accident in May 1945. Both pilots involved in a mid-air collision between two Spitfires bailed out successfully. This one crash-landed in a forest near Murmansk, and there it lay until recovery in the 1990s. And here it is now, fully restored. Restored to quite an outstanding condition. Peter Teichmann at the Hangar 11 collection acquired it in 2002. He then bought his well-known PR-11 Photo-Recce Spitfire so as to have an airworthy example that much more rapidly, but all the time he was harvesting original parts from the wreckage, the very complete wreckage of this airframe for reuse when the restoration recommenced in earnest. Started in full in 2012 and was finished off by the Biggin Hill Heritage Hangar. First flying from there in October of 2020. And the accuracy has to be seen to be believed. It has the correct Merlin 66 engine for this variant. The paint job, helped by there being so much original paint on the aircraft when it was discovered near Murmansk, is entirely accurate. The 20mm Hispano cannon and the .50 caliber Browning machine guns that are installed. They're even fitted with dummy bullets. And underwing you can see weapons hardpoints, because Peter Teichmann and his team were loaned the correct type of 250-pound general purpose bomb from the Royal Air Force Museum at Cossett to make replicas. It's one of the most authentic wartime veteran Spitfires flying, and it is the only airworthy representative of those supplied to the USSR flying in Soviet colours. It thus repeats in our show today another aspect of the Spitfire's legendary wartime service. So with the Soviet Spitfire downwind, look out now to the left are two Curtiss fighters, the Hawk 75A1 and the P-40F. And these are specimens in Europe of their respective types. The early war Hawk 75A1, a veteran of the Battle of France, and in desert camouflage, the later war Merlin-engined P-40F. And this is a line of aircraft that's perhaps tended to go a bit underappreciated when compared with the likes of the Spitfire, the Hurricane, Bf-109, Mustang, and so forth. But they were very effective and very significant throughout World War II. And just as we saw earlier with the three different Spitfires, these two aircraft depict very well the lineage of the development. Model 75 that leads this formation was one of the first monoplane fighter designs to see service with the pre-war US Army Air Corps, as that service was known before it became the Army Air Forces. Pretty soon obsolete in service with the Air Corps, which had entered in April 1938, by which time Curtiss, in any case, already had the P-14 family well under development. A few P-36s based at Pearl Harbor saw the only combat for the variant American service. Mitsubishi A670 fighters of the Imperial Japanese Naval Air Force. But the Model 75 was also very successful on the export market. And so it is that we see this one, which belonged to France's Armée de l'Air. They ordered several different marks, beginning in 1938 with the 75A1 model. It became the standard Armée de l'Air fighters of the 1939-1940 period, alongside two French-built types, the Morin-Saunier MS-406 and the Dwight D-520. On the western front of World War II, involved French Hawks like this, shooting down two Messerschmitt Bf-109s on the 8th of September 1939. Seven Hawk 75 pilots in the ace. The fall of France in 1940 wasn't the end of the story of those airplanes. Survivors fled to North Africa, where they formed part of the air arm of German-supported Vichy France, the Armée de l'Air d'Armistice. But then, when the Allies gained victory in North Africa, they ended up back in Allied hands with the Free French. This aircraft has a lot of that history, delivered to the French Air Force in April 1939. It served during the Battle of France, based at Toul with Groupe de Chasse 25 Lafayette, the famous Lafayette Squadron with the Indian head emblem on the fuselage. It then went to Algeria after the armistice with Germany in June 1940, then back to the Free French once again. Whenever it flies, we see what an absolutely superb performer it is for an early war fighter. Really powerful sounding Pratt & Whitney R1830 twin wasp radial engine of 1,050 horsepower. Still to accelerate into the dive when the P-40 family that followed it, but with, according to Stephen Bray, the boss of the fighter collection, more balanced handling and lighter stick forces. And here we see the P-40F. A rather unusual member of the P-40 family because, as I said, it's fitted with a Merlin engine. P-40s were P-36 Hawks, like the model 75 that we just saw, re-engined with the inline Allison V1710 engine in place of the Pratt & Whitney twin wasp radial. But the design soon was developed into something rather more than that. It was ordered in large quantities by the US Army Air Corps in April 1939, 524 of them in the initial deal. At the same time, they purchased small numbers of Bell P-39 helicopters and P-38 Lightnings for test purposes, but they decided to go for the P-40 in such strength, in large part due to its commonality with the P-36 that they already knew so well. Disappointing, so they redesigned the camera and the radio. So the performance of the early P-40s was, it has to be said, never really the best. It wasn't the greatest high-altitude fighter, this, but by the standards of fighters in the early part of World War II, it was long-legged. It was always extremely manoeuvrable at low level, with very good handling. As Colin was saying earlier about the Hurricane, a very stable gun platform, and crucially, an extremely durable design. Stationed at Wheel Field and Barrows Field in Hawaii at the time the Japanese attacked on the 7th of December 1941. Groups worth of P-40s stationed at those two locations. Just 25 of their aircraft survived those Japanese strikes. The P-40s of different marks went on to fly throughout the Pacific War and in many other theatres. Perhaps when we think of P-40s, we think of RAF Warhawks and Kitty Hawks with the shark's mouth markings on the nose. As used by the World War II squadron in the Middle East. The Hawks and Warhawks of the RAF, much used in the Middle East and North Africa as fighters and ground attack aircraft. The Soviets used large numbers of them. And another favorite operator of P-40s was the American volunteer group, the so-called Flying Tigers, in their fight against the Japanese. when compared with the Allison-engined derivatives. As we'll talk about later in relation to the Mustang, I'm sure Rolls-Royce wasn't able to turn out Merlins in sufficient quantity, so they were supplied by the American automobile manufacturer Packard. But still Merlins were in short supply, not least due to suppliers of Packard Merlins and Spitfires. Served the family so well prior to the relatively brief adoption of the Merlin. This V40F rolled off the line at Buffalo, New York in 1942 and was assigned to the 13th Air Force, the US Army Air Forces in the Southwestern Pacific Theatre, where there aren't actually recorded operational service to hand. The colour scheme is that of a V40F flown in the Italian theatre by the 85th Fighter Squadron during 1944, and it's going to be its last pass now. Predecessor of the French wartime War 75.